We are starting the meeting at 6:31 today, and we'll start with roll call quorum. We do have all of our members present, either in person or remote, so we do have a quorum. And we'll start with item 2 then, our action plan items. So 2A is our small grants program, no new applications for December, right? So we can skip that. And B, and I guess Amy just confirming that, no new action, no new applications?
No, we just lost Amy.
We lost Amy, okay. Well, then we'll go with what the agenda tells us, no new applications. And for item B, we have our Littleton Rental Assistance Program. Also, no new applications received by Amy. Item 2 under this strategy 4.4 is policy language for eligibility for extensions and guidelines. And I would like to propose that we review this tonight. We've put it off for several months, but I think since we have full participation tonight, we can go through that tonight and potentially have some time to think about it further and then take a vote when we meet next month. So, Angus, is this something that you'd be prepared to present, or Matthew or Amy?
No, I think it's Matthew and Amy working on this, and I will work on the extensions after reviewing the policy language changes and such.
Are these two separate changes? I wasn't aware of a separate policy discussion that was independent of the extension.
The only discussion that I have proposed or am aware of is a discussion of the memo that I wrote about the language about renewing. So I wasn't proposing that to be a policy change. I was proposing it to be a discussion on the board so that we don't get into the situation which we did earlier this year of arguing about renewals.
Right. So I think that's the only topic on the table.
Yeah, that's correct.
So Angus, was there something else that you were referring to in your message to me? You said that Matthew and Amy were working on something that you wanted to address.
This is it. The policy language could change the direction of extensions and such. And I wanted to understand what the discussions or the changes to the policy might be, so that my presentation is not stuff that's obsolete, based on changes to the policy language.
So there are no changes to the policy language. So my expectation or my understanding is that your comments will not be obsolete. Is that correct?
I am not proposing any changes to the policy.
Okay. So Angus, I think you can go ahead and present.
Yeah, sure. That clarifies. Let me see if I can share my screen here. Let's see.
Maren, is there anything we can do to stop the flickering of the screen behind you?
So I want to thank Amy for helping gather the information that went into this presentation. We looked at criteria for people who have sort of outlived their LRAP and going on to the next step. So this is what so the post 3-year LRAP continuation is for people who met criteria for initial LRAP approval. They have completed 3 years in the program, but unfortunately they're unable to progress out of a program. Therefore, they need some continuation in some shape or form within the program. Can you all assure that you can see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, great.
If If you can go into presentation mode, it'd be a little bigger.
Right, hold on. I'm not sure I know where presentation. Okay, there we are. Okay.
Thank you.
So this is what it feels like in winter when you're homeless or you have a little shelter. But the data that was presented by Amy was reviewed, and the average age of those requesting LRAP reapproval after 3 years are 65 and older. So these are people who unfortunately are unable to go out there and earn to, supplement whatever it is they have and whatever it is that we're giving to them through the LRAP program. So these people represent 66%. That's 2/3 of people who are requesting for help. And so it's a significant number. So the common stated reasons for inability to progress out of LRAP after 3 years usually is a chronic or terminal illness. We do have some with mental health, including substance abuse. The listed medical conditions are confidential. We never asked anybody for their medical history. These information were volunteered to staff at DHS, and Amy gathered the information. Everything is anonymized. Nobody is named. So we do have end-stage kidney disease patients on dialysis. So they obviously need help getting from one place to the other and having these treatments 3 times a week. The other category are people who are on some infusion therapy of some sort. And then there are people with chronic mental health problems. So the listed disabling conditions preventing progression out of LRAP after 3 years, as we stated, these conditions are confidential. And regardless of the cause, the final end results are inability to increase income and inability to access housing help from other government agencies or charitable organizations.
Angus, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So you said 2/3 of the people are elderly and can't increase their income because they're on Social Security or whatever. But then you're going through all these medical conditions. Are you saying the 2/3 of the elderly have these medical conditions, or the other third are the ones with the medical conditions?
We're talking about the 2/3 of the elderly who are unable to increase their income.
So the 2/3 of the elderly that can't increase their own income, most of them also have these medical conditions.
They do have these, yes, they do have these medical conditions.
And it's not the third that you're talking about.
No, it's not the third.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So regardless of the cause, the end the end result is inability to increase income. And once they're in the LRAP program, it's hard for them to get picked up by other agencies as well. And going beyond the initial list we gave, these are other chronic medical, likely end-stage conditions that could prevent these people from progressing out of LRAP. And again, we're talking about people with kidney disease on hemodialysis, cancer beyond stage 2, or patients on chemotherapy, any chronic debilitating medical condition that requires infusion therapies, chronic mental health problems precluding ability to sustain work in any capacity, chronic neurological conditions causing disability, such as ALS. All these conditions require a letter from the treating medical provider before DHS can act on their request. So these are conditions that are monitored and are documented before they can gain access to LRAP and what we do. There are other pertinent factors preventing progression out of LRAP after 3 years, and these are listed here. Let me just go back. These are listed here. So the problem with these people's situation is that once they're in the LRAP program, it's hard for them to access other governmental charity funding for anything. The state subsidized housing wait list is 10 years out. So, they can't get access to it. The federal housing programs have a wait list of 2 to 5 years, and some of them more. The housing voucher programs have a long wait list with no specific time frame, and some are frozen out and not accepting any new applications. And all applicants in our LRAP program are also on the wait list of one or more of the above housing programs. So they're really in a bind. Now, when you add that to their inability to get out there and get a job to help themselves, then you see why these elderly people need a little bit of help. And so the proposal is that we include this list of chronic, debilitating, perhaps end-stage medical conditions in a list that we can review before extending the LRAP after 3 years. And this is not something that we go ask the patients. We already know that the patients have to provide a medical provider's letter confirming their medical condition and enabling them onto the LRAP program. Perhaps it's something that we could request a reauthentication of that initial letter that they got, and then use this checklist as a screening tool, more or less, or as a guide to extend their LRAP. So this essentially is what we found, and I'll be glad to take any questions.
So, Angus, I'm looking at the LRAP program, the guidelines, and the application, and none of them, I can't find anywhere where you ask any medical questions.
Again, as I stated earlier, these are conditions that are volunteered at intake. Perhaps Amy might be able to answer that. The patients, the candidates volunteer, and I believe if I read through Amy's submission, they are required to provide a doctor's letter. Amy, is that correct?
No, they're not required to provide any sort of medical documentation. That is something that's usually disclosed to me during the process. So
Okay.
I will usually provide that when I'm presenting to allow more dialogue to back up the extenuating circumstances in which people would be requesting an extension.
Okay. All right, then. So that's something we can work in. It's not as a formal process, but certainly something to verify that this is indeed, it doesn't have to be a letter that states a diagnosis or anything. We do understand that these diagnoses that are listed here were verbally volunteered and not received as a document. So perhaps maybe we could request a letter from a provider, maybe just a line or two saying that this person has a chronic debilitating medical condition and that they need extra help.
So,
Go ahead, Matthew.
so a couple things. I'm not sure that we should be in the business of, so I guess my first thought is that this is not what this program is for. Like, I understand these people have a terrible situation, but if we begin, you know, you're kind of proposing that we pivot this program to a permanent assistance for people who are medically unable to work.
Oh, no.
Well, and also the other thing I wanted to ask was when you said if they're getting LRAP, they're having a harder time getting other benefits. I think I'm not sure that's what you meant. Perhaps you mean they're getting LRAP and everyone is having a hard time getting other housing benefits.
Well, they're in LRAP. Most people in LRAP are already enrolled in either a state or federal program and they're already in a long queue that's maybe 5 to 10 years out. So really, the only other option they have is the LRAP, if indeed they're unable to progress after 3 years. Now, going back to the other question, my proposal doesn't request an open-ended, non-terminal on LRAP funding. We did agree in this trust, probably in minutes long gone behind, that these reapplications are based on individual basis and also on the discretion of the trust. It's at the discretion of the trust. So each case is judged individually. Where a person comes along with a medical condition, perhaps they have a terminal cancer, or they have maybe kidney problems and so on, and they need extra help, and they volunteer the information, then certainly we should be able to help them. And if a patient is saying that they're on an infusion, that's a tip that this person has a significant medical condition. What are the conditions that require you to be on an infusion? Maybe it's a cancer, or maybe it's some really debilitating medical condition. So those are the things that we need to think about.
Sure. So I understand that. I guess I'm saying, I think you're proposing that, you know, we have a 3-year limit unless someone meets some of these medical criteria. And I believe, you know, that I understand it's at the discretion of the board, but the memo that I wrote was in response to what I think is sort of a failure, because the discretion of the board is always extend, because we never want to cut anybody off. And if we say that now we're taking these medical conditions into account, everybody who doesn't have a medical condition may drop off, but the people with medical conditions will always get renewed, and we'll end up supporting them, like, you know, without any potential end date. And at some point, the money that we have available for this program is going to run out. Like, we can't keep getting the money from the CPC every year, or if we do, it will dwindle. And then we're going to have to make choices about who we support. And I think the best way to do that is to be more strict about people rolling off this program. The intention was short-term rental assistance, not long-term assistance for people who have medical issues that make it hard for them to work. And I understand that, you know, that might sound heartless, but I want to make sure that we're like not looking at mission creep here and like changing what this program is supposed to do into something else, because we're not basic social services, we're housing assistance.
Well, in response to that, there could be a cap, maybe 2 terms on the LRAP program, and you're done. That can be easily done. Now, this board, and I must commend everybody on this board for their kindness and generosity. We have always extended, and it's not because we just willy-nilly just extend. We extend because the funds are there. If the funds were not there, we wouldn't extend. So
I guess with due respect, we do have a cap, right? It's 3 years. right? And I think that that's why the 3-year limit is in place, and to arbitrarily say that we're gonna increase that to 6 years, to 2 terms, I don't really see a justification for that.
Well, we're
And I
not
was
in,
just gonna ask Matthew. Matthew, could you please remind us of your position on this? You said, you had sent a memo on this. Maybe if you could summarize your thoughts.
So the memo was essentially just a codification of the thinking that absent some extraordinary circumstance, everyone is done after 3 years. And the reason that I wrote the memo is because of the debate we had. Nobody wanted to say no. And I understand that impulse. I mean, none of us are looking at these people who need help and saying, well, we have the money, why would we cut them off? I guess I had hoped that having a firm position written down that we adhere to, and something that I know Amy reiterates this when she does the intake, but making it more codified that we have a 3-year term, and then it's done, and we don't support people after that. That was my position when I wrote the memo.
okay. Well,
Barbara, did you have any comments?
there's nothing in what I've proposed that says that candidates should be extended indefinitely. There's nothing in there. I have only suggested that perhaps for these needy people, we could extend them one more time, and that's it. Now, that is my recommendation. I haven't said we have an open-ended fund all, give it away all policy. And I do agree with your proposal for able-bodied, less than 65-year-old with no terminal medical conditions. Yes, they have one shot and that's it. So the rules are made to accommodate the less fortunate and not to put a hard stop.
Carla, did you have thoughts?
I'm uncomfortable. I guess, these people were making do before they joined the program. I mean, they were paying rent. We're giving them money and that eases their situation. So I guess we could use that argument to say that if we stop paying them, they won't, immediately become homeless. But I don't think the money is going to end as long as community preservation gets some money. I think that we'll get some money.
No.
I'm uncomfortable just cutting it off abruptly.
Mhm. Susan, do you have thoughts?
Yeah, I'm from the beginning been very uncomfortable with having any cutoff. Our original things were, yes, 3 years, and then we would make a decision, and if it was going to continue or if they needed continuing after 3 years. I understand Matthew's position that, yep, that's what happened. We all didn't want to say no, and we gave people more than their 3 years. If I'm not comfortable with making it 3 years and stop at all. I'm not comfortable with that in the least. I would be comfortable with some kind of a compromise of 3 years, and then after 3 years, we make a list of maybe extenuating circumstances that would be considered. Some of the ideas in Angus's proposal, whether it be for people just 65 and over, I don't know. Some of those things affect people younger than 65. So I'm sort of like Bartlett, I'm torn, but I am definitely not for putting a complete stop on it.
Okay. I think in the interest of time, we should probably wrap
can I-
up. Sure.
So I kind of agree with you, Bartlett, that the money's not gonna go away, but I question whether this is the best use of our CPC funds.
That's a valid
Right.
question.
So we have allocated more and more money to the LRAP over the time and to allow more and more people. Yes, we haven't exhausted the money, but we're basically spending $120,000 on of taxpayers' money to support 18 households, I think, is it? Something like that is what we've allocated. Would we better off taking some of that money and investing in affordable housing rather than rental assistance for the community in the long term? So the money's not going to go away. I agree with that. I'm questioning whether this is the best use of our money. And if we have to cut it back and only say 60,000 in rental assistance, and then we're making these choices. We have to have a way of making these choices, and it might mean that someone's cut off, right? Or, I mean, in my time on the board, I don't know, we might have denied LRAP to one person, right? We're very generous on what we do.
We are.
Right? And we can always sit there and increase the amount we're asking for CPC, but I don't think this is the best use of our funds, right? I think we can do better.
So I agree, Mark, and I do think that it's more core to our mission to look for permanent solutions for affordable housing and versus a temporary stopgap, helping with rent. You know, we want more units available that are affordable to Littleton residents. So I agree on that point. And secondly, I'm really uncomfortable with asking about medical conditions or having a laundry list of medical conditions that apply. I think that that's not our place to decide what that is. I can immediately think of 10 or 15 other things that could prevent people from working, but I don't think that that's really in the core of what we do, is to decide that and to become a second SSDI, you know, for these folks. So I think we decided we'd discuss it during this meeting, give it some more thought, and potentially vote on any changes, if we want any changes to our policy moving forward or additional guidelines. Does that make sense?
So I would just point out for Bartlett and Sue, like, if you're not comfortable with a cutoff, we do have a cutoff in the policy now. So if you want to remove that, then you should find a way to change that policy. I'm not proposing any changes to the policy. I just wanted to make sure we had a real conversation about why we never cut anybody off, which we've done, and I'm satisfied.
Thanks, Matthew. Thanks, everyone. I guess we're going to say something else.
No, yes, I was going to say we're not. I think that we should look at it as a situation where there are people who are needier than others, and we need to create room for them. I don't want it seen as an open-ended request for all and sundry. This is just for people who do need the extra help. Now, this proposal came about because I think someone had gone to another trust and brought information that they extended people on terminal cancer and such. And I think that that's what we picked up and looked at to see whether there's an opening there for us to create an avenue for people who couldn't exit the program. And that is why we went into this research and came up with this proposal. Now, people who are well and able can exit the program. But if someone has terminal cancer and you put a hard stop at 3 years and they're on a wait list for 10 years and another wait list for 5 years, I'm not sure that's the heart and soul of what this trust was intended to do, regardless of where the stop is.
Mark?
So Angus, I'm the one that did the research. And what I found was that every other program has a hard stop, right?
Yeah.
There was one exception to that hard stop, and that was someone that was going into hospice. And they let them go an extra 6 months past their end of their deadline because that seemed cruel. That was the only one that did not have a hard stop. And 3 years is the most generous of the programs. A lot of the programs are 1 year and you're done with no renewals. So.
Okay. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Angus, for the presentation. Let's go ahead and move on to our next agenda item here. Strategy 4.4, 87 Tohoto Road update. And I'll turn over to Mark. And I also noticed that Mary Ellen has joined us on the call. So welcome, Mary Ellen.
So at the ZBA meeting last Thursday, Habitat withdrew their request for a variance because the ZBA did not appear to be in favor of supporting them being allowed to build a duplex there. The suggestion from the ZBA was to bring it back as a friendly 40B. Habitat is reluctant to do that because it's expensive. It's going to cost $1,200 to $1,500 or something like that. It opens up a whole new review from the state, which requires another 6-month delay, and they're right back in front of the ZBA. So they're reluctant to do that. They're discussing whether they're having a board meeting later just before the end of the year to discuss whether they'd be willing to do that or not. Mara and I are meeting with town council later this week to discuss if there are other options or to give Habitat more guidance, because the RFP says one thing, zoning says another, and we're trying to work out a solution for this. As another aside on this, Habitat has gotten a $70,000 grant from, I think it's from the state or federal government. I'm not sure.
It's through one of the banks.
Through one of the banks to build a duplex there. It's specifically for a duplex at that site. So, and when I talked to Carolyn today, she says she's waiting to hear on 3 or 4 other grant applications that they submitted for the duplex. So if it's not a duplex, their fundraising basically has to start over as well. So I'm trying to work it out on our end. She's working it out on her end, and we agreed to try and talk before the end of the year. Do you have any more details to fill in, Maureen?
No, I haven't heard any other news.
So. The ZBA did not want to set a precedent of allowing duplexes in town, even though there's another one right down the road from there, and there are at least 3 multifamily houses on that road. So.
Yep. Yeah, I wasn't able to attend the meeting, but I did watch the replay, and I would share Carolyn's concerns about applying for 40B. I wouldn't feel confident that the ZBA would approve. They said it was because of precedent, but there was a lot of strong emotion against having a duplex there, independent of the precedence topic. So look forward to hearing the outcome of the meeting with town council.
Is there any possibility of changing to a single family house there?
So there's talk of doing a single family or an ADU. The ADUs make it extremely difficult for financing and qualification, right? And a single family is not what we sold them the property for. It says so in the RFP. And a single family is not really, it's kind of cost prohibitive for them. The amount of site work and everything else for a single family house puts the cost pretty high.
What if we just do like Trump and build it? Let ZBA stop us.
All right, any other questions, comments? Mary Ellen raised her hand.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me on. I just wanted to say for the record, because it feels bad to be like opposing this project. I mean, I'm not opposing this project. I think, Marianne, if you said you watched the recording, I think everybody in that room wants the project to move forward. And it's frustrating to me because this whole time I've been listening to your plans for the last 4 years, and I know many of you were not on the board then. My assumption was that you already had this variance, that there was no way this project was being planned without the okay for it. And in fact, I have one email that says, like, we have the authority. Like, you know, anytime I would question, it was fine unless I got a little too inquisitive, and then I was always shut down that you have the authority. So it's just frustrating to me that I didn't find out till October, when I got a letter in my mailbox from the zoning board saying there was a hearing requesting a variance. So I was not aware of that. And it's just frustrating to me because I do think this project would be great. I think a single family project in a single family zoned neighborhood would be perfect. So that's all my 2 cents, but I appreciate you guys letting me speak.
Mary Ellen, if we did have it 4 years ago, if we did have the variance approved, do you think everyone would be okay with it?
There was no thought of getting a variance.
No, but if,
Like if you had this variance up front. I mean, that was my assumption all
It's up
along.
front.
So when I'm doing
Yeah.
walkthroughs, I'm sorry. Go ahead, finish.
so I'm just thinking that you said that it's frustrating because 4 years ago, or this has been happening for 4 years,
Right.
and you didn't know that we needed a variance from ZBA. So if we had got that, if we had taken that step, would it be okay?
Well, that's why I was doing a walkthrough and requesting the house just be moved a little bit. And because I assumed it was moving forward. Carolyn talked about pouring the foundation in November. So I assumed if she's talking about, that was the end of August, I think. If she's talking
Yeah.
about pouring the foundation or early September in November, how was it that this was not, there was no filing of this variance until the end of August? That just came out the other night at the meeting. Again, that was my assumption. So I thought, well, all right, it's happening. So let's talk to you guys and try to make it, work for everyone. And that was my assumption, that you already had it. So that was why I was walking through and, assuming that everything was moving forward, as Carolyn said, and as you guys have said. So
everyone believed that we could do a 2-family house without any ZBA variance, right?
Why though? Why?
Why?
Yeah, why in a single family neighborhood? Why?
You have a 2-family house.
No, I do not. And I really, really was frustrated with Carol. I have a house with an in-law apartment that I built 25 years ago for my mother, and that she's the only person. And when I sell my house, I cannot sell my house as 2 units, unlike this Habitat house. That is going to be 2 separate units that they're going to sell. So if one person moves, they get to sell 1 unit. So it's very different. And that was really frustrating for Carolyn to come in and say, there's a 2-family right next door. Because no, there is not. My mother is my family. So she's not a different family.
That is how your current rental situation is. If your mother moved
I don't
out-
have a rental situation.
Yes, but if your mother moved out, you could rent it to anyone you so choose. It is a 2-family house. There are at least 3 of them on your.
Yes, but
That definition.
Okay.
In the current state
Okay.
and county bylaws.
okay.
Right, so they're all the same. The only
And can we
difference.
sell them
is
separately? Can I
ownership.
sell it? If she passes away, can I sell her unit?
That's the only difference currently is the ownership.
Mhm.
That both
It's a big
units have to be
difference.
owned by the same person.
It is
It's-
a big difference, and I think that to answer the question, why didn't we think we had to get a zoning variance, is we didn't know. We didn't know the nuance of the differences that would require the zoning variance. So
Because
that's-
it was
that's
just
what-
interesting to me because I raised the question at the last meeting just about the Durkee farmhouse, because at that last meeting, after talked of the septic, I was listening, and you then said, someone asked, how do we proceed? And there was some options given. So I don't understand. Maybe there was there was never discussion of how you were going to proceed with this. I guess I'm just confused about it, but I know many of you were not even on this committee at that point, and I'm sure no one did it on purpose, but it's just frustrating to me that, it's been going on this long, and it was the 11th hour when somebody decided to apply for a variance and kind of just going on the assumption, well, yep, we'll just rubber stamp it without ever thinking that's not going to be really well received by people who assumed that you already had the variance. But I mean, again, I'm not opposing it. I want a habitat house. And I think, as we discussed in the meeting, a 2-family house without any basement or any garage is going to be really challenging, and with the majority of that lot being wet. So I just don't, I never understood how this project made sense as a 2-family. And now that I know that it's not even, it never even had the approval, I think that, Cheryl Cowley raised an interesting issue of like, how can we help raise funds for them to make it a single family? Because I know Wanda was there and she had the first single family, the first Habitat house, and it's a single family. It's not a duplex. So I just thought it worked that time. Maybe we could make it work this time.
I think we'd all like to turn back the hands of time and things in the right sequence. Unfortunately, we are where we are. And
well, I'm sorry, because I get passionate about it, because it like breaks my heart. I do not want to be fighting with Habitat, but at the same time, I think it was really unfair how this whole thing went down.
Thank you for your input.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you.
No need to apologize. Thank you. Anything else on 87 Tehadawon before we move on to Durkee Farmhouse? Okay. Next item then, 2.1 Durkee Farmhouse project. So Laura is not on the call, right? So we can.
We're still waiting for them to give us some feedback about what we can actually do.
Right, and the latest we got from her through Maren was that they're doing a site visit on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the engineering team that she hired to do that, is that right?
Yeah, right. The request came through to access the site for the wetland scientist to do wetlands flagging, put them in touch with conservation because it's currently snow covered, and
vegetation is one of the main ways that, aside from water, that you determine whether it's wet enough to be a wetland or not.
Got it, okay.
So
it's not the perfect
there's only
time.
a couple of inches of snow, so some of the vegetation is going to stick up, but
yeah.
So anyway, conservation will help
right
through help the wetland scientist through that process. So the investigation is the information that we get is that the investigation is still underway.
Okay.
so
The other update on Durkee is that a graffiti artist went over there and did a nice job of painting one side of the house for us. So,
oh good.
So
Art in Littleton.
All
I'll
right.
have to check it out.
it's the Foster Street side. So
Oh, okay.
Strategy, next item then, strategy, or unless, is there anything else on Durkee?
No, I don't have anything else on
Okay.
that. Nothing's happened.
And 3.2, 550 King Street. We had requested the schedule and location for affordable housing units. So I took the action item to draft a message to the planning board. Byron was nice enough to forward it to them, just requesting input, saying as a partner in this,
Yep.
we'd like to know when the units will be available, like let us know what the schedule is. And also, we added a statement that we'd be willing to partner, right? Because we do want this to work for all of us. No one has, to my knowledge, responded to that.
Well, they did make me the liaison.
That's right, that was the
between
other,
two boards.
right,
The
That's right,
planning
so-
board did meet last night with the Lupoli companies, which seem to be there en masse. And they came in with an interesting proposal, I guess. I think they phrased it as a question, would it be okay? They said that they're intending to do the mill building project, 410 Great Road, to tear that down sooner rather than later, and to build the, what is it, 240 or something units there? Is that what some
They didn't say
number?
what that
Anyhow,
was.
some number that gives us an insane density. But the proposal was to take all of the 40 deeply affordable senior units and the 41 other affordable units that are they owe us for the 800 units at 550 King Street, and put all 81 of those units in the 410 Great Road building, which the planning board seemed to think was an okay idea. Now, I don't know if they do a building at some number of units at 410, do they owe us 10% of those units?
Yes, that would be
So-
an addition.
So then there would be 80 plus the 24, say, affordable units. So about a third of that whole building would be affordable. So that's a proposal in front of the planning board. There was no decision. There were no real substantive comments one way or the other.
I mean, that would be positive for us if that's coming earlier, right? Because then that
Right,
would be front.
that was one of the
loading
reasons
the
is that
affordable
we've been
units.
pushing them, the town has been pushing for getting the affordable units done quickly. Not waiting until, 10 years for the last increment. So on that sense, it's a good idea. So that's the update on that. They did say that they were gonna come up with a, what was the word they used? Some kind of a draft proposal that they would circulate to the planning board, and I asked them to also circulate it to this board.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we'll get something more specific in the mail in a couple weeks or a couple months. A lot of this is gonna happen early in the serious proposals are gonna be presented early in the year before March.
Well, that's, I think that would be really positive, right, if we front load some of the affordable units. I did see on the website, the town website for 550 King Street, the final environmental impact report was published. And there's a footnote at the bottom of page 1. It's a really long document. I didn't read the whole thing, but at the bottom of page 1, it does spell out, and I can read it here, a minimum of 40 of the affordable units will be deeply affordable, ranging from 30 to 60% AMI. The remaining affordable units will be 80% of AMI or lower. In addition, as required by a condition in a special permit received on June 18th, affordable units will be constructed, leased, and occupied on a schedule proportional to market rate units. So it sounds like if this is the case, then they'll be proportional or even somewhat ahead
They'll be
of
ahead of-
the market rate units.
They'll, I mean, my thought from what they said last night was that they're gonna build the retail section along King Street and get that going, and then they're gonna build, I'm not sure, 1 or 2 of the big apartment buildings
Mhm.
and on the 495 side of the site, and then they would do the 410 Great Road site. So it would still be a couple of years, but it would be much sooner than waiting for the end of it.
Yeah.
Does that?
Yeah, that's my understanding as well.
Okay.
And does anyone have any comments or any issues in general with having all of the affordable units at 410?
No, nobody said anything about that. I mean, I guess it would work. I mean, there's 2/3 of the building is market rate, so this.
Well, they didn't say how many they were actually planning on building at 410. He just said they were putting all the affordable units. They didn't say that.
Right, but what they proposed so far is something on the order of 2, and that's gonna.
What they originally had a permission for was 260. What they haven't proposed that, what they were proposing last
Okay.
night,
And
had
they're,
no numbers at all.
and, right, and they're negotiating with the lot next to, with Littleton Lumber for the lot next to them. So that the 410 may change greatly depending on what happens.
So just to use round numbers, if there are 800 at 550 and say there are 200 at 410, that would make a total of 1,000, and 10% of those would be affordable, so that'd be 100. And they're saying all 100 would be at 410, so basically half, 100 of the 200
Right.
in this rough example. Okay.
we just have to make sure they're really affordable and not just counted as affordable like you get with the other.
With the
Right, these would still,
inventory.
and HLC has reminded me of that as well. You can't, the town can't then ask for that to be a 40B proposal, a comprehensive permit proposal, and have all of the units count. It's still
And,
local action program.
and the special permit is very clear about the 40 units and the other units and how many of the 3 bedrooms and
Mhm.
stuff. So the special permit is, I think, clear in the governing document.
Good. Thanks, Bartlett. Keep us posted if you hear anything as our liaison.
Do you often go to the planning board meetings?
Sad but true.
Okay, Tuttle House is related to 550 King Street, but we called it out as a separate agenda item, so we can talk about that below. Let's move on to board business then. First item, discussing exploring the next affordable housing trust development.
So, the RFP, Bartlett actually sent me some comments on the matrix that I had completely dropped and haven't incorporated, so I will work on doing that.
Okay,
I thought they were all good points about, what to favor more and,
Okay.
different things. So I will try and get that done and, I don't think I have the actual document, just the PDFs now, so I have to go back
Okay.
and find it, so.
All right, I have the marked up copy of it here.
You were
Anyone
doing,
else?
you were doing things like favoring senior development.
Well,
senior-
yeah, I changed the spreadsheet a little bit. I added a line, well, I wrote in number of bedrooms. I said, I don't know, I made up something about 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms. I put in demolish for existing structures, not advantageous as demolish, advantageous as keeping it with some rehab renovation, and highly would be just to reuse it. And then at the bottom, I put in energy use. So less than code, which would apply to some old buildings, meets code or exceeds code. And the bottom line, appropriateness for area, disruptive, fits in, adds value. So I just.
Chain bracket.
Stop it, stop calling me.
those are good additions. I like those.
So
I like what he wrote, I just haven't.
I had sent out the body of the RFP also, which we had given to Kim, and she made some edits. Any other comments on that? From members? No?
Yeah, it's.
Okay. And the next item is 82 Russell Street. I've not done anything on that.
So, yeah, I think it's hard to do, but I haven't pursued exactly how hard it would be. We would have to figure out basically a land swap, I think, so we'd have to give Park and Rec some land in exchange for getting the land there, because it's deeded to Park and Rec, which is just as complicated as if it was deeded to conservation to take it out of Park and Rec's control.
Okay.
So, but maybe the lot next to that they were talking about for the Tuttle House would be a good swap.
We could swap turkey, get rid of it.
Oh, yeah, that's even better.
Good thinking.
In my experience, the land swap, it has to be similar areas. The house that they're talking about, possibility for the Tuttle House is half an acre.
Okay.
But we can say there, yeah. But
It's a
upon
good
serious
location.
Yeah.
It's more valuable to them.
Okay, next item, First Baptist Church update.
There has been no conversations with them since the initial meeting.
I took it upon myself to send an email to Mary Lupoli saying that there was a Baptist church that was empty and that we were looking for proposals of what to do with it. They had approached the town and it's near where their project is, and there was a lot of discussion at the planning board last night of traffic control and the end of Goldsmith Street and that intersection and how that needed to be somehow Lupoli make it perfect. So I said, this is next to that corner and you should, think about doing something with it. So I don't know what they'll do, but
Turn it into a parking garage? Okay. All right, the next item 4 is Tuttle House. So several of us, Mark Bartlett, myself, Maren, were at a meeting that was scheduled on December 4th to discuss Tuttle House. There was a request to potentially move the Tuttle House from its current location, which is part of the 550 King Street property, and move it to another location and potentially donate it to the town and potentially to the Affordable Housing Trust. So we were given the task to evaluate and provide feedback. I reached out to Laura at MHP to see if she thought this would be a good project, a good potential for technical assessment. I haven't heard back from her yet, but I will follow up because the deadline for applying is December 22nd. But because that's not moving too quickly, we decided to independently schedule a walkthrough for us for the Affordable Housing Trust, and also Linda Stein from the Historical Commission asked if she could join as well. So we're looking at the first week of January for that, and their consultant is available on January 5th, 6th, or 7th. So let's look at our calendars for a minute. And actually, we've just given 2 options from Jim Duggan of the 6th or the 7th at 2 p.m. And I guess first of all, is anyone interested in joining that? And would you be available on either of those 2 dates?
Both of those work for me.
Same for me. Anyone else interested, and if you are, would you be able to attend at those times?
Yeah, both of those are good for me. The 6th would be better, but I can make the 7th work.
Okay.
both are good for me.
Okay. I guess, Matthew?
Sure.
I cannot make it.
Okay. But you're okay with us moving forward, Matthew?
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so I'll propose the 6th at 2 p.m. Sounds good. And I should say also that Linda shared the position of the Historical Commission, and their position is they do not want the house to be moved. And she just sent that to us. They took a vote at their last meeting on the 10th, and she did forward that document to us. She had been asked to collect that and to vote on that in parallel to us taking these steps.
Just to dive in a little bit deeper on that, the house is significant. The house should not be moved off of the site. And when she says site, my belief is that she means off the property. I don't think they need it to be in exactly the same location, but that would probably be a clarification we should work through with Linda.
Well, it wasn't always in that location anyway, right? So-
Exactly.
Right, and the landscaping around it is going away, so.
Right.
There's really no point in keeping it in exactly that location, and they bullies seem to be willing to consider other places on that property.
Okay. So, good point, Martin. It's worth clarifying because I'm reading it as well. Best preserved by retaining the house on the current site, but that could be the broader site or the whole 550 King Street project. Okay. All right. Anything else? Maybe just, we should mention that the site that they were proposing to move the house to potentially is a lot that's next to Castle on the Trees, playground.
Between Castle and Trees and the Toddle Lodge.
Right, on that side of it, so really directly across from the Historical Society, and it's a half-acre lot.
It's a small lot, yeah.
Yeah. About that. Okay,
And it would require a lot of variances.
yes. Okay. Next topic. Oh, trustee and town planner updates. So let's start with Maren for change.
Let's see, if there's gonna be a quorum of the trust at the January 6th site visit, just remind me and we'll post a site visit notice.
Thank you.
Other than that, I think we've covered everything that I had in mind.
Good. Thank you. Violet,
So I've finished bragging about the planning board.
excellent. Thank you. Sue,
No, no updates.
all right. Angus, any updates?
No updates.
Okay. Matthew,
I'm sorry that I have to sign off. It's at 7:30, but lovely to be here. Thank you.
okay. Thanks. Have a good night. Thanks for joining us. Mark, any updates?
Sure, so I've been at MHP, as we've been running 3 seminars at lunch. The third one is tomorrow. I will be attending. The first one is talking about using CPC funds. The second one is about conflict resolution. And will be surprised by whatever the topic is tomorrow, because I don't remember what it is. Mary Ann and I have set up the magic meeting of the affordable, I don't know what it is, Affordable Housing Trust Consortium. It will be January 29th in the library at 10 o'clock. And I volunteered Mary Ann to do a presentation on how the small grant program works.
I believe we volunteered both Maren and myself, so. And you've already provided a nice deck and a core of slides that we could use for that, but maybe in the new year, you and I can connect and put together a final presentation. And thanks again for that, Mark. Appreciate that.
And I'm still waiting to hear about the CHAPA Excellence Program or whatever they were calling it. I think they announced it Thursday or Friday, so. They said they had a lot of applicants, so.
So,
Also, I got some mail, there's like another MHP program on January 15th.
They run programs year round, so.
So it's a virtual, something's virtual. I didn't see what necessarily what the topic was, but there's a virtual thing coming up on the 15th. If people are interested, I can send it around.
yeah, if you could, that'd be great. So just a couple quick updates from me. I was also on that MHP call last week. There's a big crowd on dispute resolution. I lasted for the first half, and then it was interesting. It might be interesting to read through. They gave you a chart so you can figure out your conflict resolution style. You answer a bunch of questions and see if you're a collaborator or a compromiser, different things. But it could potentially come in handy for us. But that was good. I won't be able to attend tomorrow, but I'll look forward. They're all on replay also, so we can look those up. The other thing I wanted to talk about, maybe not necessarily an update, but I didn't see it anywhere else. Lucia had attached to the message that she sent to us a draft of a message to landlords who work with us on LRAP.
Yeah, I finally dawned on me that's something we had never done, was reach out to the landlords and say, thank you for participating in the program. And by the way, this is what the trust does. And I based it on Bartlett's longer thank you letter for the last donation that was received. So just perhaps if the trust is interested in doing a little more outreach, saying this is who we are, this is what we do, and why not? Maybe start with people, a group that we already work with.
Yeah, I like the idea. I like the draft of the message. I think probably because it's front of mind because our agenda. The only point I didn't know if we wanted to be specific about the $500 per month, that it is time boxed, like that, for a period of time,
Yeah.
so if someone is participating, then, maybe they can work with us as well, knowing that it's, not a, indefinite program.
And thank you for the comments, because when I put something on paper, throw it out for review, I'm always happy to take comments and.
I think it's a great idea and a really good way for outreach where it's relevant too. And, people who I think they benefit from this program as well.
So I misspoke, it's Metro West that's running the thing, it's on local action units and LIP. So, which I know nothing about and I don't know if I want to, so, but that's what they're running on January 15th from noon to 1:30 virtually. So.
Yeah.
I can send that around.
Okay.
Is it something you would recommend we attend?
Yes. Partially to understand that that's some services that Metro West could help the town with. And partially to understand that that's some of what we'll be looking at when we have the additional local action units. And affordable units done under local bylaws.
Okay.
So I'll forward it to you and you can.
January 15th?
January 15th, noon to 1:30.
Okay. Next item, C is possible candidates for the 7th board seat. And input from EHS. Does that mean someone from EHS had an idea? Possible candidate? I think Amy's not on anymore, right? She dropped.
I remember the discussion, somebody was gonna reach out to EHS and see if they had any ideas, but I don't remember which of us volunteered for that.
Okay. I can do it now. I'll call Amy tomorrow and just see if she has any ideas. Amy. Item D here, discuss community involvement in the Affordable Housing Trust, guidance from MHP.
Let's see, one of MHP's programs, is working individually with housing trusts on how to operate well and how to increase, community participation in affordable housing issues. So they do have several programs toward that direction. Just wanted to raise the awareness of that and see if, if that's something we want to pursue sooner than later.
Oh, Maureen, did you want to talk at all about the grant denial? We got a letter from talking about why we were denied the grant, and it doesn't look like we have any chance of going forward with it from the way the letter was worded, or maybe you know more. I wasn't in on the calls.
Yeah, so in the Community One Stop for Growth grant program, this year they did a very good job of reaching back out to the communities to schedule debriefs. And so Tony and I sat in on the debriefs for several of the grants that were not issued. The one for Affordable Housing Trust, the reason was they were very willing to provide last year's grant to pilot the program, but these capital funds are not used for operation. They don't target operations on those. The Community One Stop grants, they do tweak the focus for each of the grant programs every year based on feedback they're getting from communities and find out what some of the needs are. So when the grant announcements are made in January, or when the next grant round opens in January, they will have updated guidelines. So, should probably look through those updated guidelines and see if there are programs that we offer or think of offering that match any of the grants. That's always the way.
I think Magic, when we talked to some of the Magic representatives before, they thought there were other grant opportunities outside of these one-stop grants, but I don't remember what they are. So I tried to Google them and to find them, and I could not. So when they're out here in January, we can talk to them a little more.
Yeah, that would be great to share some of their expertise on, what else is available.
And maybe it's also, I mean, a lot of communities are like interested in this, so it might also be something you could do a regional or something. To
Right.
get more support.
Right, and regional grant applications usually have a lot higher visibility than simply local ones.
Okay. So, back to the question, Martin, I think you asked about starting with the more community involvement. My thoughts are it'll be good to have a project to rally around, and which one would that be? I feel like Durkee, it's too early. The Hadawan is
Too late.
not a good point, right, to bring the community in. Yeah, potentially too late. 550 King Street, too early, and I feel like there's not really a need at this point for more community involvement. Do you agree that it should be more in the context of a specific project, or do you think general community involvement is a good thing?
I think both. I think it's hard to get the community rallied without the project, but I also think you need to. I think after sitting through the ZBA meeting, I don't think people really understand what affordable housing means, right? So I think rallying people around a better explanation of what affordable housing really means and what we're trying to do would be a good thing. How you get people to engage on that, I'm not entirely sure. So you might need the project to help bring that along, but people just generally don't understand the mission of affordable housing, right?
Yeah.
Right, and part of MHP's work is to help housing trusts get the word out. And they have some methods and recommendations and best practices. It's just a matter of how we want to ask MHP to work with us.
Okay. I wonder if they have some materials that we could just look at, and then kind of decide if it's something that we want to start now or, 6 months from now. Okay.
So I'll start, I'll email MHP and see.
They can send us a link.
Right.
So Maureen,
Maybe started, yeah.
you might also want to talk about the ADU discussion going on with the planning board and get affordable housing trust members to show up and speak.
Yes, that's excellent.
That's it. I don't remember what meeting that's at, but it's probably before our next meeting, so.
Yeah, so the state has passed a requirement that all communities allow accessory dwelling units by right. So Littleton zoning bylaw doesn't yet match the new state requirements. So the planning board is in the process of proposing an update to our accessory dwelling unit bylaw. Invited zoning board of appeals to that discussion because it's been their baby. They're the ones that have in Littleton's past issued special permits and allowances for accessory dwelling units. So hoping for their expertise and the planning board, and it would be great to hear from Affordable Housing Trust members as well. I don't believe that it makes sense to deed restrict ADUs as affordable units for most homeowners because of the cost to advertise and select qualified renter every time the unit turns over. That can be $4,000, and it's significant.
Yeah.
But there are significant grant opportunities for affordable ADUs at the moment, I think, right?
I haven't looked into any of that, so
I think
couldn't answer
I've
that.
seen some of those come through my email that there's
Hmm.
like assistance for affordable ADUs at this
Right.
point.
So at a minimum, the town could see naturally occurring affordable units, smaller units, accessory dwelling units that become, come on the housing market, become
Mhm.
available for rent. And then down the line, the trust could consider if the homeowner decides that they do want to have one of the units deed restricted affordable, does the trust want to step in and help with the advertising process, or some other way? And if there is grant fund, are grant funds available to help owners build affordable ADUs, can we help make that match?
And the other reason to be there is to influence discussion on ownership. So if the ownership of ADUs doesn't have to be in a single owner, if someone can own the house and someone else can own the ADU, we don't have the habitat problem we're having now.
Okay.
So you're basically allowing some sort of a duplex by right, then effectively, though it is not a wide open duplex, it's a house with the ADU restrictions on the duplex would, the second unit would be, but it would allow
So that's being considered?
that. So the state doesn't say anything about ownership. The town gets to decide what the ownership is.
The town can decide, do we want to permit a condo kind of association or a condo? The thing is, building is separately owned, but the land is still owned by the home. Now, I don't, because you don't want to divide it up into two lots, because that
Right.
gets to a whole bunch of other issues.
No.
So it's a complicated thing that nobody's decided anything yet.
But the talk we went to over at Devon's by whatever Esophic group, I guess that was over there, they basically said the one presenter said, was very much in favor of duplexes, right? As by right, if like the difference between having two units, once you have two units in your zoning, why are you defining the ownership in your zoning? Right? Zoning and ownership aren't necessarily the same, right? And if you have two units, what difference does it make that they're commonly owned or separately owned? Right? From the zoning perspectives and that. If your goal is to get more affordable units and more housing units, then you should figure out the best way to accomplish that.
Right, and the planning board's tasked with coming up with a bylaw proposal that can get
Through town meeting.
through town meeting. And that might be the one issue that causes a hang-up, is the ownership style.
It'll be an interesting discussion at
Yes.
town meeting. But that meeting is
So, I'm
on,
sorry, meeting, the planning board meeting of January 8th, that'll be before,
On the agenda.
that'll be on the agenda for that evening.
Okay.
Right before the public hearing for the King Street development, so.
and you probably want to have a decision to that meeting. I assume you'll probably continue over to February on the affordables.
So January 8th, the planning board has added a extra meeting on Thursday, January 29th. That'll be probably almost all King Street Common. It would be light speed if the planning board could get through it by then. But at this point, it's up to how well, the developer can respond to the comments, all the comments that were submitted to the.
Well, I meant just the ADU unit's probably not gonna close on the 8th either. Right?
Probably not. Well, this will be another informal discussion, gather information, and the planning board will decide what it is they want to bring forward to town meeting. And by, early February, they would need to have a draft bylaw in place, then hold a public hearing on it. It would be good to get, Affordable Housing Trust to attend that meeting when it happens. Probably March or, March would be best. For now, but-
Okay,
Thank you.
next item is minutes to approve. And I did just quickly look at the minutes and I did in fact take the action to reach out to Amy and Liz. So I will actually do that this month. So we can make that an action item again. But did everyone have a chance to look at the minutes?
Yeah.
Any
I
comments?
did.
Any comments, or do we have motion to accept?
I move a motion to accept the minutes of the last meeting. I didn't find any specific issues with it.
Thank you, Angus. We have a second?
Second,
Second from Bartlett. Okay, let's go around. Susan, you approve?
Yes.
Angus?
Yes.
Bartlett?
yes,
Mark?
Yes.
Mary Ann's a yes. Okay, the minutes are approved. We need to schedule our next meeting January. Pull up calendars. I generally target the third Tuesday, which 1, 2, 3 would be the 20th. Does that look like a good day for everyone?
Sure.
January 20th at 6:30? Everyone can make it?
Yes.
I think so.
Super.
Yep.
Okay, that's when we'll meet. 6:30, and that one, you said every third meeting we'll try to do in person, so that will be a virtual meeting by Zoom. Okay. Excellent. That's it for the agenda then. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, thank you, Bartlett and Mark. Susan?
Yes.
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 Bartlett?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Mary Ann's a yes. So our meeting is adjourned.